Oxford House gave me a life worth living. And how do I pay that back? How do you measure repayment of giving a life worth living that I never thought was possible? There's nothing that's equivalent to that. So instead of paying it back, I choose to pay it forward. So I try to pay it forward to you guys, and then you can pay it forward to the next one, and that message can continue to carry because it's not my message. I'm not here to share you my message. What I'm sharing with you is what I've learned from other people. We do this together. It's a we deal. So I have a little bit more experience than some others, and I like to share that experience with you. So I'm going to go right into this and talk to you about what I've seen about successful houses and very sick houses and how to move from sick houses to successful houses, okay? So the first thing is, who are you? I mean, really think about this. Who are you as an individual? I mean, do a little internal dialogue with yourself. Who are you? What do you believe? What are your values? Okay, what do you hold dear? Your attitudes, your beliefs, your values. Are you the same person that you were when you were active in your addiction? You are a completely different person. I mean, physically you are the same. You may look a little healthier. I mean, I imagine most of you probably look a little healthier than you did, right? Take a little bit better care of yourself. But you're a completely different person, right? You think different, you act different. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to remain open-minded for this presentation, okay? Just like the principles of recovery teaches us. Because what I want to do is help you unlock some new ideas. Maybe something that you've thought about, maybe something you haven't thought about. Maybe you have some ideas that may differ from mine, but I'm just going to ask you to remain open-minded and just hear me out through the presentation and give it a chance. Because I know that a lot of people from different areas do things a lot of different ways. The Oxford House model is pretty broad. I mean, there's a lot of different directions we can go with it. And I'm not saying that everything I'm going to tell you is right, okay, because I'm just sharing my experience with you. But I am going to say that not everything you believe is right either, and to open yourself up to new ideas, okay? Can you all agree to do that with me? Yeah. All right, so perspective. Very important in Oxford House, okay? When new people come in, we can't expect them to be perfect. I see a lot of houses that the first thing they want to do is put somebody on a contract or even evict them before a contract because they're breaking the rules of the house. If people had all their stuff together when they moved into Oxford House, do you think they would move into Oxford House? I've yet to interview anybody where they sat down and said, you know what? My life is great. My family loves me. I got a great relationship with my kids. I got an awesome job. I thought it might be good to move into Oxford House and live with a bunch of other addicts and alcoholics. Right? That's not who interviews at our house. We are the last house on the block for a lot of people. They've tried a lot of other things before they finally decide, okay, I guess I'll go live with 8 other women, you know. I know, ladies, I've said in your interviews too, I don't want to live with a bunch of other bitches. I don't know how many times I've heard that. Right? I mean, can we agree to be real in here? Yes. Let's drop the facade and we're just going to be real today, okay? So perspective. So tell me, you guys, what do you see? Yell it out. What do you see? All right, it's a dollar bill, but what do you see? Look at it. You see what? A president? Man, I don't see a president. I see a pyramid. You're wrong. Right? I don't see that. I see a pyramid. And I'll argue with you because I'm looking at it right now. And that's what I see is a pyramid. So there ain't no president here. Oh, I got to change my perspective. Right? Got to look at it from a different angle. That's what Oxford House is about. And we get into these discussions and ideas where we're sharing our beliefs, our values, our attitudes, and we want everybody to have the same one as us. How boring would life be if everybody thought the exact same way I did? I want different perspectives coming into Oxford House. That's what makes it successful. I don't want to live with a bunch of 30-year-old bald guys with a beard that just think like I do. You know, I don't want that. I want to live with a mix of people. I think that's what, that creativity and that mixture of life is what helps make a house whole. what turns a house into a home. So when people come in from different backgrounds, from different perspectives, listen to what they're telling you. Their perspective will change. My perspective on life has changed. Life is the same out there, but I look at the world a lot different than I used to when I was drinking and drugging. It's a completely different world to me. So as people come into Oxford House, meet them where they're at and try to put yourself in their shoes and look through their eyes so you can get their perspective. And then you can relate to them and understand them. Because it's more than just about sharing a disease and trying to battle the disease. Okay? So perspective versus perception. I mean, I had to look this up to see, because I get these two things confused. So perspective, it's a point of view, an analysis, an examination. It's using your five senses. But your perception is more internal, right? It's insight, it's awareness, it's interpretation. So it's taking what your perspective and how you perceive it is that internal dialogue that you have with yourself. That internal voice. So reality and truth. I mean, my reality, I don't even see what's behind me, right? I mean, what's behind me? Got a curtain behind me? But I don't see it. That's not in my reality right now. You all are in my reality right now. You guys are my truth. Your truth is very different than mine. We all come from a different background, our upbringing, our environment, our education. All of that plays into who we are as human beings. And so we cannot expect people to come in and, here it is right here. Well, we were going to accept them, but we just didn't think they were a good fit for the house. Who's a good fit for Oxford House? I mean, tell me, what does that look like? I want your most broken person at the interview. You know, that's who I want in Oxford House. That's who fits in Oxford House for me. Give me your most broken. Okay, so here's what it breaks down to. Turning a house into a home. You come into Oxford House because you want a safe place to live, right? Maybe somebody's nudging you into Oxford House. But maybe you're there on your own accord. But you're coming in because you realize that you need a safe, structured environment to have that one up to try to build some recovery. But what you find out the longer you stay, it's not about you. It's about that next person coming in. So you enter for yourself, but you stay for others. Many of you, how many of you have been in Oxford House more than 6 months? How many of you feel that had your hand up? How many of you feel like you have to be in Oxford House, that if you moved out tomorrow, you could die? Not as many hands. So a lot of you are not there because you feel like it's urgent that you have to be in Oxford House. Are you there to help other people? Or are you there for the cheap rent? We're being real. We're being real. A little bit of both. Okay, it's affordable. Yeah, you can be honest with me now. I've been around long enough. I know some of you stick around. It's like, I got a single room. It finally worked my way up to that single room. And some of you up in Washington, Oregon, everybody gets a single room. You move in, you get a single room. I've been to some of your houses. I know what's up. But that ain't the case across the country. We like to see a few doubles, new people coming in. We don't want to isolate. It's like, oh, here's your single room and your cable box and your DVR. We'll see you at the house meeting. No. Come on, don't do that. All right, so here's Oxford House, the levels of support. This popped in my head one day, so I thought I'd write it down. The houses are at the top of the pyramid, right? The houses are autonomous according to the model, but the house alone may not survive. You have to have some champions in that house for it to survive, and not every house has champions. Sometimes we get into sick thinking, and collectively, we can make some very bad decisions in Oxford House. You've all seen it. So we need the support of chapters. If you want houses to be healthy, they need to be part of a network of chapters. But if you just have chapters underneath the houses holding them up, that's not enough. What happens if we just have chapters under the houses? It'll tip over. We need to have some reinforcement. So hopefully we can get some OHI support, whether it's through a state contract, or whether it's through Molly Brown, or whether it's through the manual, or whether it's through anything on YouTube. You know, there's all kinds of ways to get support from OHI other than an outreach, in your area. But then we need an HSC. We need a subcommittee within the chapter that can go into the houses and share experience, strength, and hope and help train new members and keep the cycle of success going. Okay, so Oxford houses are great, but we need support. We all need help. All of us, every one of us need help. So here's the 4 stages of a house. The first stage is survival. The second stage is stable. Third stage is successful. And the 4th stage is significant. How many of you are in a stage 4 significant house? A house of significance. Okay, I'm going to break these down, and then I'm going to ask you again and see if the same number of hands go up. See if we're being real with each other. All right, survival houses. These are your new houses. They just opened, right? They're in survival. Even if you have a revolving loan fund, you do or you don't, that $4,000, man, that don't go far. Especially if you're having to pay first month's rent or deposit, there's utility deposits, and you're left with a few $100s to furnish a house. You may not even have enough money to buy all the beds. I would say as long as you have a coffee pot and a microwave, you can open an Oxford house. You're good. We'll get it started. But new houses are usually in survival mode that first month. Maybe the first 2, maybe the first 3. But there's not a whole lot of money left over once you get a house started. Nearly vacant houses. If you got 3 or more vacancies, there's a good chance that you're probably in survival mode. Because there's a double-edged sword to that EES, right? You can't raise it so high that your 3 remaining members say, well, I can't afford $210 a week. I'm going to move out. You know, and then the new person interviews. Was like, well, I just interviewed down the street. It's $100 there, and you're going to charge $180 because you have vacancies. I'm going to choose that house. So it becomes a little counterproductive. So you have to weigh that. Survival house can't pay their bills. Or they're not paying attention when they get vacancies and not raising the EES. Revolving door of residence. If you're losing 2, 3, 4 members a month, you're in survival mode. You're losing information. You really need people to stick around. You need those champions of the houses that have the information to share. If your house is completely turned over in the last few months, and I hope chapters visiting that house to share that information, because some people may try the best they can, but without any knowledge. I didn't come into Oxford, move into Oxford House knowing everything. I didn't know how it all works. I had to read and study and call people and ask questions. Bills are behind. I mean, that's a charter violation, right? I mean, we got to pay our bills on time. That's integrity. It's being responsible. So if you can't pay your bills on time, that includes chapter dues and chapter loans, okay? That's a bill. You're violating your charter if you ain't paying the chapter what you're supposed to pay them, okay? No recovery. Everybody's just you don't bother me, I won't bother you. Get home from work, I'm just going to go to my bedroom and check to see what shows I missed. No structure. It's a flop house. Nobody's really concerned about your recovery, your growth. It's not a home. It's just a bunch of roommates living together. No accountability. And you've seen it, right? You go into the house, it's in survival mode. They can't pay their bills, and it's not because of vacancies. It's because you got 5 or 6 people that owe EES. And if I owe $300 to the house, I ain't bringing it up in the house meeting that you owe money. And the new person that moves in, they see all the people behind us like, oh, okay, so there's some leniency here. Maybe I can go get that new phone or those new sneakers, right? So they get behind because they realize there's no accountability. So it's perpetual. They need a core member. Okay, the house is in survival mode. You need to put somebody in there that knows what they're doing and is willing to serve that house, even if it's just for a few weeks. Just visiting house meetings at a house in survival mode oftentimes isn't enough. An hour and a half once a week, that's not going to turn things around. You need to put somebody in there. You can't do drive-by visits. It's just plant somebody in the house. They need financial support. They may need a chapter loan, but that shouldn't be the first thing we do, because financial struggles in a house is not a problem. If a house owes money or is behind in bills, that's not a problem. That's a symptom. There's something underlying that. Accountability, responsibility. There's something else going on in the house that we need to find out, because if you cut a check for that house, say, here you go, we solved your problem, your bills are paid, what do you think is going to happen in 30 days? Same thing. They need training. Every chapter should be doing house officer training every 6 months. Because in 6 months, you've lost 80% of your membership. According to national statistics, in 6 months, you've lost about 70 to 80% of your membership in the chapter. So we need to constantly be doing trainings. Because when somebody lives in a house as a treasurer, they've been to a house officer workshop, they understand the position, they may fulfill their term and move out. Are they going to come back and train the next treasurer? Are they going to train somebody before they move out? How often does that happen? And even when it does happen, how much of that information is actually retained by the person being trained? So that a little bit drops off. And then that person, well, we can have 2 people that fill out 6-month terms in a row. How often does that happen, right? They may relapse or move out of the house, and they don't even teach the next person anything, and that person has no information, so they're just winging it. And before long, the finances are out of whack. So it does not take long for a house to fall into survival mode. How many of your houses are in survival mode? There's nothing wrong with that. The good thing is you can move up, right? And that's what we're going to talk about. Stable houses. A lot of houses around the country are stable. A lot of them. Probably the largest percentage of houses are stable. How do you know a stable house? They pay their bills, but there ain't much left over. $100, $200, $300 left in the account. There might be some money owed to the house. It's like, oh, we're not gonna have any consequences till you're 2 weeks behind. So everybody's a week and a half behind. Right? We're addicts and alcoholics. I've seen it. It's like, okay, you're going to go on contract if you're 2 weeks behind. This one dude's $199 every single time. Sporadic participation, it kind of depends on what's going on, how important it is. It's not top priority. You know, spending time with a significant other is more important than sitting down with a newcomer to show them the house manual. The house has bosses and not leaders. So you may have that senior member that has the information, but they're holding on to it. They're not going to share it with anybody, because if they share it with you, then they lose some of their power. They're going to share what benefits them, right? Chores are skimped. I can walk into a house, and if I see dust behind the television, I know that this is a stable house, not a successful house. I know that if I walk into a men's house and the toilet bowl looks clean on the inside, but I can see a mess around the outside.
I'm just saying, that's gross.
Hey, guys wake up early. We don't always hit the target. I'm just saying. Right? I mean, we're being real now. Ceiling, the fan blades have dust on them. Baseboards. The white walls, you can tell where people go around corners or open doors because there's that griminess around it. I mean, that's gratitude, man. We got to have gratitude, take care of these properties. Recovery is rarely discussed. You may have some guidelines in your house rules or whatever about attending so many meetings a week, but recovery is not really talked about. It's not lived in the houses. It's just something that we got to do. Got to go to some meetings. Inconsistent rule enforcement. There's a line in the sand, but it moves, right? It moves with the tide. Depends, the personalities instead of principles. So it depends who's in the house, right? And who can talk the best talk. They can get out of, well, I was going to do my chore, but da-da-da-da-da-da, or I called da-da-da-da, or I texted them. Didn't we take a vote by text? Stop doing that. Most of the time spent in bedrooms. This isolation, we go into these presentations and tell people that you can move into Oxford House and get support and become part of a family. And then they move in and everybody's either taking a night out or they're up in their bedroom watching TV. Please take the time to do stuff together other than just a weekly business meeting where you gripe about finances or chores. Unorganized, incomplete paperwork. I can tell you how successful your house is by just walking in and looking at your officer packets. I don't have to talk to nobody. Just show me where the officer books are. I can tell you how well your house is doing. Are you using the right forms? Are they organized? You got a bunch of empty envelopes stuffed in the pocket of the treasurer's book because you can't throw nothing away? Are you using notebook paper for your secretary minutes because you ran out of ink for the printer? Y'all laugh because you can relate, I'm guessing. Right? And there's a general sense of apathy. It's like, I got enough going on. I don't really feel like going above and beyond for Oxford House. I don't feel like doing anything extra. Oxford Houses are democratic and autonomous. That freedom comes with a price. Responsibility is tied to freedom. And if you're not willing to put in the work to live in the democratic environment, go move into a for-profit house where you have a manager, and then all you got to do is pay rent. You may not even have to stay sober, depending on the house, right? Very inconsistent with the for-profits. If you're paying on time, you may get to do whatever you want. In Oxford House, we have a responsibility. How many of you want somebody to come into your house and tell you what to do? Then you got to do it yourself, right? I mean, it's pretty simple, but we got to do it. Everybody gets an equal piece of the pie. We got to do it. All right, now let's get into successful houses. A large number of houses around the country are successful. Most of the successful houses are the ones that help raise the money to send people to the World Convention. So I would imagine that most of you probably live in successful or significant houses. But we're the cream of the crop that come to this convention. Let's be honest. Most of the people that need to hear the information in these conventions, they're not here. We're here because we care or we're new and excited, right? The people that need to hear this information, it's your responsibility to take it back to them and get them excited about it, okay? So this is just as much for them as it is for you. I know how the workshops work. You know, all the people that have been to 3 or 4 workshops are the ones showing up and helping out. It's like they could get up and do there's people I could pull up and they could do this, you know. So please take this information back. But successful houses, most of you are a part of here, they're cornerstone of recovery. Recovery is the foundation. And that's what Oxford House is. It's a home of recovery. Oxford House is not a shelter for abstinence. It is a home for recovery. Oxford House is not a shelter for abstinence. It is a home for recovery. There's a difference between not using and drinking and actually changing your life. There's a lot of people that live in Oxford House that are not drinking and using, but are not doing anything different. They're not living a different way of life. They're not trying to grow. Savings account. In order to be a successful house, you need to have a savings account. And if your house is nearly full, throw 10% of what you bring in every week into that savings account until you get 1 month's surplus built up. Then you can start upgrading furniture, getting the pillow top mattresses, getting that nice new matching living room set. You all right? How many of you are still sitting on furniture that was there when the house opened? Months later, years later. It's time to move to success. Start building a savings account and upgrade that furniture. Cooperation and communication. Very important in a house that's successful. People communicate. They talk directly to each other and not about each other. Right? They work with each other and don't try to tear each other down and use the rules as a weapon. They have smooth meetings. They actually follow the agenda. They don't get off topic a whole lot. We're not going to get off into crazy stuff during the treasurer's report. We're going to not talk about stuff that we've talked about a million times before. I've said in house meetings where I'm about to grab my phone and call animal control because we are beating a dead horse. If your meetings are lasting longer than 45 minutes to an hour, there better be something serious going on in the house. There better be an emergency happening because they should not last longer than an hour. Hour and 15 at the most. If I'm sitting in a 2-hour house meeting, we're gonna have a talk, right? We need to streamline this. They have organized binders. They have complete reports that are ready to go at the house meeting. They protect the finances. They have 2 signers, active signers in the house. That is not the treasurer. Don't do what I did. That are not the treasurer, right? So the treasurer fills out the check. It's passed to a signer, passed to another signer in the house meeting. The checkbook does not leave the site of multiple residents. It stays in the safe. It only comes out during business meetings or audits. There's house unity. When somebody's going to pick up a 30, 60, 90, whatever day chip, we're going to go support them at their home group. Leaders teaching the newbies. We don't have bosses. We have leaders in Oxford House. Okay? People that we look up to and we respect, that pass the information down freely because they know that that was passed down to them. We got to pass the torch. The guy that lights the torch for the summer games in Athens, he doesn't run to the country and light the cauldron. It passes to hundreds of people before it gets there, but it's the same flame. We don't have to alter it. The model works. It's worked for 41 years. We tend to complicate it, right? Humans get in the way of that. Involved with chapter and HSC. So successful houses want to be involved in chapter. Usually have people that are participating in the HSC committee, that are helping with fundraisers, helping with events, doing the fun stuff, right? They have a clean house. They have upgraded the furniture and the beds. We talked about that. That's your successful house. All right, significant houses, very small percentage. But that doesn't mean it has to stay that way. It doesn't take long to go from survival to significant. I've seen houses do it in less than 6 months. Rarely have vacancies. When somebody leaves a house of significance, somebody's moving right into it. The members step up to serve. There's not just one person that has all the information, whether they're a boss or a leader. Everybody steps up and wants information. They have unity dinners before or after house meetings, or at least once a week. They get together and break bread. Old school. A family. They go to 12-step meetings together, if possible, based on work schedule. But everybody goes to 12-step meetings because that's where recovery's at. Not because we're required to go to 3 a week. Savings account with over $2,000. Depends on your house and your bills and everything, but you need to at least have $2,000 in your savings. Some of you big houses, I know you pay a lot more. I know in the East Coast, and I know some areas are paying $4,000 or $5,000 of rent. 1 month's worth of surplus. Your rent and all your utilities. Put all that together. That's what you need in a savings account. Houses of significance, they keep that in a savings account and they don't touch it. All members trained to be leaders. Everybody wants to step up. Open communication. You can talk to anybody in the house about anything, even the uncomfortable conversations, and they won't take it personal because you love each other. Rules are enforced with no resentments. Yeah, I did it. I'll take the fine. I'll pay it next week. I ain't going to be mad at you, and I'm not going to turn into a fine Nazi and try to watch you for you to screw up. How long's that cup been on the table? Did they go to work already, or are they up in their room? I'm timing it. Mark the time. They get back to the community, not just Oxford House, but the community you live in. Get involved in another nonprofit. How many times are we asking for donations? Do we donate to others? We should be. I know San Antonio just participated in a food bank. They went and gave out food all afternoon. And that goes on all over the country. I say that because I live in San Antonio and I saw it firsthand. But I know it goes on all over the country. We get involved. Houses are significant, give back to the community. They might mow the neighbor's yard because an elderly woman lives there. Her husband passed away. And instead of her paying somebody $40 every 2 weeks to mow the yard, the Oxford House just pushes the mower and just keeps going and mows their yard too. You know, we got to be, we're respectful members of the community. We want to be respected. We want the stigma to go away. Well, we got to act the part. We got to become part of the community. So it's not just Oxford House. A breeding ground for core members. That significant house. If I want to open a new house and I need a core member, I'm going to my stage 4 houses, and I can pull any one of them. So come on, we're going to go open a new house. We're going to recreate at this house what you have in that one. And they're willing to do it. Because they know that house is going to fill that bed right up. Happy to volunteer when asked. If they're able to, based on work schedule and personal commitments, they're going to get involved in whatever's going on. Helping to plan events, giving their time, that valuable commodity of time. How much time have we stolen away from ourselves or our family members? Let's give some of that time back. Now I'm going to ask you again, how many of you are in a stage 4 house? Not quite as many hands, but we got some stage 4. How many are stage 3? You're successful. You're almost to that stage 4. It's the savings account that's holding you back, isn't it? Already know it's that savings account, that damn savings account. How many are stable? See, so most of you are around stable, successful, okay? So I'm going to teach you how to go from survival to significant. First, I want to talk about long-term members. There's some verbiage that's used. Senior member. Senior, that means in the back of our mind that they're more important, that they have more privileges. Let's stop using that word senior member. Let's use seasoned member. The senior members are the ones that hide out in their room and come out the house meeting to tell you what you're doing wrong. We don't want a senior member. I don't want to live with any senior members. I've never been called to a house meeting because the new person is causing problems. Whenever there's problems in the house, it's never because of the newcomer. They didn't screw it up. They're too scared to do anything. It's always that senior member. We want seasoned members that are willing to give back. So seasoned member, they'll welcome the new people. Senior member, they don't even know their name. Seasoned member, they'll train new officers. Senior member, they don't even want to be an officer. I've done that. I've done my time. We got 8 people in this house. You 6 can do it. Seasoned member volunteers to serve. Senior member avoids chapter and HSC. I was chapter chair last year. I ain't going to any more meetings. Seasoned member goes to a lot of 12-step meetings. Senior member, they have a lot of meetings with their significant other. Who's your higher power? Seasoned member continues to grow. Senior member continues to plateau. The seasoned member checks in with other members. A senior member checks bedroom DVR. A seasoned member shares experience, strength, and hope. A senior member shares negativity. A seasoned member stays to give back. A senior member stays for cheap rent. A seasoned member works for a recovery program. A senior member, when they're off work, it's straight to the room. Do you have any senior members? Oh, okay, I'll go back. Sorry, I see phones. How many of you have senior members in your houses? How many of you are senior members? We got a few that maybe need to make some corrections. There we go. We're being real. We got any seasoned members? Yeah, let's. All right, so here's the 5 principles. You want to be a stage 4 house? Here's how you do it. Recovery, responsibility, accountability, communication, and unity and fun. That's your foundation. All right, so recovery. That's why we're all here, right? That's what brought us into Oxford House. That's where it all begins. So meeting requirements. Houses need, in the manual, it's meetings are not mandatory, but it also says in the same breath that we all consider ourselves members of 12-step community. So we need to be participating in 12-step community in Oxford House and stay connected with the recovery community if we want to have successful and significant houses. Home group, very important to have a home group. There's a lot of big metro areas where you can hide in 12-step recovery, bouncing from meeting to meeting. So be consistent with finding a home group. Step work. Just because you go to a bunch of meetings, don't be like me. Don't just go to a bunch of meetings and think that that's going to help you. You actually have to do some work, some inside work. Sponsorship. Get a sponsor and actually call them, right? I know in the houses in Texas, and I know maybe some other states do this, when they do roll call, they ask, how many meetings did you go to this week? What step are you on? And what day, when did you last talk to your sponsor? That's done during roll call every week, so we can check in. Where are you at in your recovery? So we may need to stop and talk about it for a minute. You've been here 4 months and you're on step 2, we're going to have to talk about that. Recovery in all of our affairs. Okay, recovery is a way of life. It's not just abstinence. Being honest, having integrity, paying your bills on time, being respectful to others. All our affairs. Emotional sobriety. Well, that's a tough one. Tough one. Those spiritual principles are tough. Staying on the beam is hard. I cannot do it every day. But I can try to learn from the times when I'm off the beam so that I can try to stay on longer than I'm off. I can try to be a better person than I was the day before. I don't have to compete with you. I just have to compete with the me of yesterday. Okay? And I can try to do it with humility. But God, humility is the hardest spiritual principle to obtain, because once you realize you have it, you just lost it. Service work. If you want to get into significance, you got to get out of self and you got to start giving back to others. It's the only way this thing works. Attraction versus promotion. Those houses that are doing the deal, they don't got to brag on themselves. They don't got to do nothing. People know because they're at all the meetings. They're donating. They're participating. Walking the talk. Not just talking the talk, but walking the talk. Responsibility. It's a requirement. You want to live in Oxford House, you got to be responsible. If you cannot be responsible living in Oxford House, you will eventually be asked to leave or made to feel so uncomfortable that you're not going to want to stay there. You can't be lazy in Oxford House. Not if you want to be a stage 4 house. Money. Let's get real. The only way Oxford House can survive if the bills get paid. The foundation is recovery, but the bills still have to be paid. At the end of the day, we want those doors open. And if you can't pay the bills, the house closes, there's no recovery to be had. And pay the landlord first. You cannot, it's going to be very difficult to watch that current cable bill if you got an eviction notice on the front door. How many of you want to watch the cable through the window? That hasn't been cleaned or wiped down because you're a house in survival mode. Man, that would suck, wouldn't it? Man, if we would have only cleaned the windows, we could watch our own TV. Cleanliness. Respect the home. How many of you are grateful to have a bed in Oxford House? How do you show it? You take care of it. Take care of it. Yes, you stay in a room, but that is not your bedroom. That doesn't mean that you get to just trash the place. Okay, take care of it. Try to make the house better when you leave than when you entered. Because they see a lot of wear and tear. Those carpets, some of them look like we're changing engine blocks in the living room. Right? You know what I'm talking about. If you spill coffee, go get the stain remover, wipe it up. Don't just keep walking to your bedroom spilling on every step on the way up. Officer duties. Understand what it means to be an officer. Every person in the house should understand the basics of every position in the house. Don't just train one person on one position. You're putting all your eggs in that basket. What if they don't make it? What if they're not there next week? When I open a new house, I sit down all the officer packets that I make up for them, and I get those 5 people, 6 people, and I say, we're going to go through a mock meeting. I'm going to show you how each person does it and how it's all tied together. We're going to do this for 2 weeks. Then you guys decide who wants to be what position. We'll vote on it. And then I will shadow you as you go through those positions. And then by week 4 or 5, I don't have to do nothing. And there's other ways where you can rotate the books for 3 or 4 weeks and have everybody, I get to be secretary this week. Next week, I'm going to be treasurer. Because if somebody moves out, you want somebody to come right in and be able to fill in, or they're at work. It's like, well, our treasurer had to work, so we're going to have to table the treasurer's report. No, we don't table the treasurer's report. Respect of others. You don't have to like everybody you live with. You don't have to agree with everybody you live with, but show them some respect as another human being trying to stay clean and sober one day at a time. Even if the best they got is not up to your standards or your expectations, still show the respect that you want to receive. Speak up. Don't let the fear of confrontation and conflict keep you from saying what needs to be said. If it needs to be said, say it. I promise if you don't say it and you sweep it under the rug, it's not going away, and it's not going to get any easier to deal with. Say it early and say it often. If somebody's acting a fool, call them out on it, but do it in a respectful way. Don't hold the rules over their head. All right, accountability. This is the toughest one. Inventory of others. What's the big saying in AA? Take your own inventory. Is Oxford House AA or NA? There's a clear separation, correct? You move into Oxford House, we're taking your inventory. Don't bring that 12-step verbiage into this house. Those cliches don't work here. I'm watching you. I don't need UAs in the house I live at because I'm watching you. When I see something that I don't agree with, I'm going to say something. I may be wrong for saying it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Addressing conflict early, I just went over that. Know the manual. Okay, I got a tip for you. You guys ready? Here's a life hack for Oxford House. If you have lost the key to your safe or your new house and can't afford a safe, you can hide the money orders in the house manual. They'll be safe there. Ain't nobody going to open that up. You laugh because you relate. How many even know where the house manual is in your house? How many of you don't? How many is like, we don't have one. We used to. I don't know what happened to it. The senior member hid it under his bed. That's what happened to him. With the money orders, yeah. Manipulation, old behavior. Trying to manipulate the system to use it to their advantage. Happens a lot in Oxford House. Principles before personalities. Man, that's tough, right? Very, very tough. But we have to always sometimes just take a step back. I'll tell you what happens a lot in Oxford House is we make irrational decisions based off emotional responses. Sometimes it's best to just take a step back. Try to let some spiritual principles of recovery enter the mix. Let our emotions calm a little bit and level off, and then we can act with reason and logic. Maybe we need to talk to some people. Maybe we need to just give it 24 hours before we approach this situation. Dish it and take it. There's a lot of people that can give accountability, but the minute you try to hold them accountable, it's the first thing they do. They're going to be like, but they did this, or they did. What about when you did this? They want to deflect it. They want to deflect it onto somebody else. That's when that accountability, that line gets moved, right? It's like we're going to hold you accountable and real strict on this. Oh, you got a speeding ticket? We'll let you get behind this week. We understand. No? Child support decided to take out a little extra you weren't aware of? Or what about this one? Oh, you're waiting on that disability check? You got a settlement coming? Oh, we'll let you get $600 behind. No big deal. Just sign the check over when it comes. Tough love. That's what accountability is. It's basically saying, I care enough about you and your recovery to hold you accountable so that you don't fall down that slope and end up with a pipe, a needle, or a bottle in your hand. I care enough about you to say something. There's a lot of people in my life from my past. They were my best friends on payday. I heard from them every payday. But when I got arrested, where were they at? I had family that tried to hold me accountable, but they didn't understand what was going on. They were baffled by the things I was doing. When my parents walked in after being on vacation and I'd pawned everything in the house, and the first thing they see is a dust ring where the TV used to be. My mom, how many of you had this from your family? That disappointing slump, right? Like, you did it again? Like, what? I don't understand. In Oxford House, we know that, right? We can spot it a mile away. We got to give tough love. But we got to give them an opportunity to change. We can't just kick somebody out just because they violated a rule. There's a process. Warning contract eviction. Warning contract eviction. Let's talk about it openly first so we can recognize it and get on the same page about what needs to be corrected, whether it's behavior or attitude or whatever. We're going to talk about it so it's out in the open. And if it continues, we're going to have to come back and we're going to have to put something down on paper to say, you know what, this is continuing and we need some changes. If you want to maintain good membership in this house, we need some changes. The ball's in your court. Show us you want to be here. And then if it continues, okay, your actions have shown us that you no longer want to continue to participate in this thing we call recovery in Oxford House. So you're going to have to take whatever you got going on and find a new address. I'll still go to meetings with you. Even if they relapse, I'll still love you. I'm still here for you. You just have to have a new address. I get a lot of people that come to me and say, well, God, that's pretty harsh. You kick them out in 15 minutes because they relapse. It's no surprise. They know coming in what's going down. That doesn't mean that we end support, like we turn our backs on them. We don't got to slam the door in their face. We still want to help people find recovery if they're willing. They just got to do it from another address. Maybe you can come back down the road, but got to love you from wherever you're going. I don't know. Treatment, detox, homeless shelter, mama's house. I mean, I don't know. But communication is the next one. It's got to be open. It's got to be honest. It's got to be uninterrupted. The talking over people, man, just let the people say what they need to say. You don't have to agree with it. You don't have to like it. Everybody has a right to their opinion, and everybody has a right to their feelings, whether you agree with it or not. Everybody has that right. There's a right time and place, though. Right? It's not through text message. It's not using the dry erase board to tell us how you really feel. It's not on Facebook with their cryptic messages. Or calling people out in the groups about how sick a house is after you've been evicted for bad behavior. It's like, I'm going to blow the whistle now. Well, where were you before it got sick? I mean, come on. Case building, that's not effective communication. Character assassination, gossip. Okay, those are sick ways of communicating. We want the open, honest, direct. And I'm going to just be real. Those last three, that's the chicken shit way out, you know? It means you're too scared to deal with the issue head on. You're trying to build a case against somebody based on a personality issue. If it was truly a behavioral issue that had to do with recovery, you wouldn't have to litigate to your other housemates to get their support. Their behavior speaks for itself. Last one, unity and fun. Family dinner. Break bread together. You'd be surprised how well you can get to know somebody by just sitting down and sharing a meal. Do a how goes it after the house meeting. Find out what's really going on with their week. You know, maybe they got fired from their job or they found out their grandma has cancer or something like that. So you're going to hold them accountable to their behavior, but you don't even know what's going on in their life. Celebrate the birthdays, the recovery birthdays, the belly button birthdays. Celebrate them together. Go into house outings. If you want to be significant, you got some money in the bank, go out and play miniature golf or go bowling or start a softball league or just go do something fun. Enjoy the common area. Get everybody down together in the common area outside of a business meeting or an interview. Go, rent a Netflix. Do something, have fun together in the house. It doesn't even have to cost money. Host a chapter event, have a barbecue, have an open house, do something in your house so that other people in your chapter can come and experience what you got going on in your house. And it's infectious, it's attractive. People want that. Food. Bring food, they'll come. Bring food, they'll come. Think outside the box. Here's an idea. Get the women's houses in one chapter and the men's houses in one chapter and do Iron Chef for all your sponsors. Rent out a church fellowship hall, have menu and have the guys cook a meal and the women cook a meal, have the your sponsors and people in recovery pay $10 to get in, and they get to sample all the plates and they get to decide who wins. I mean, think outside the box. Do something fun. Raise some money and have fun at the same time. So how many of your houses have all 5 of those principles mastered? That's what's required to be a stage 4 house. I saw like 15 hands go up when I asked at the beginning, stage 4 houses. Do you have all 5 of those principles mastered? Okay. A lot more stage 3 houses than stage 4 when we first entered, right? All right, so stage 4 houses, the 4 stages of houses: survival, stable, successful, and significant. 1, 2, 3, 4. To move from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, base your house on these 5 core principles: recovery, responsibility, accountability, communication, and unity and fun. Don't suffer from senior member-itis. Become a seasoned member. Thank you.